Hey you all, I am the Walking Traveler and I am back. I'm doing a slightly different video. Usually when I do my sit downs, when I'm talking to you all, it's about tips, my fast five. But today I wanted to take some time to just talk about my personal experiences traveling and just being in the Middle East as a woman, and in particularly as an African American woman. So I first want to talk about my personal experiences, and everyone has their own experiences. I get that. And I'm just talking about my experiences and just the things that I have experienced and the way that I feel. These are definitely opinions. These aren't facts. These are just the way that I feel. And I'm going to talk to you about some things that people said to me when I said I wanted to travel to the Middle East, and whether those statements held true or not. So one of the things that a lot of people said to me is that if you go over to the Middle East, that you will be treated terrible because you are a woman. And in particularly because you are a woman of color, you will be treated very, very negatively. And I haven't experienced that. I have been treated very well. The people have been very polite. The service has been great. I haven't had really a lot of negative experiences as I traveled through the Middle East. Personally, I'm really trying to think of something that has been really negative that sticks out to me, and I can't really think of anything. I haven't experienced overt racism. I have experienced curiosity and lack of knowledge of other cultures and other people from other cultures, just because a lot of places where I've traveled, they're very sheltered, and they don't really interact with people of African descent unless they are in more of the service sector. And so that has been very interesting. I do experience people that want to practice their English with me, which I'm always excited to do, and that I try to practice my Arabic with, and I do a terrible job at it, but I still try. And that's really all I've really experienced in that regard. So I've had people tell me, well, when you go to the Middle East, people are intolerant. They're intolerant of different cultures, and they're just intolerant of anything that isn't their traditional cultures or their traditional values. And once again, I have not experienced that. I haven't experienced anyone being overtly intolerant to me. If they have been, I may not have picked up on it, to be honest. I haven't experienced anyone saying, oh, you're from this country and you're this, so we don't want you in our restaurant, or we're going to serve you slower, or you're not going to get as good service, or we're not going to answer your questions. I haven't experienced that. In fact, I've experienced the opposite. I've experienced people who are very inquisitive and they want to learn about me and my culture, and I find that refreshing. I also am an inquisitive person as well, and so it makes me feel a little bit more at ease, because then I can ask them questions and I can learn. And I feel like as I learn about different cultures from the people who are actually in those cultures, not from like documentaries or something like that, from actually talking to the people, I feel like it makes me a better or more rounded person personally. So one of the other things that people said to me is they were like, oh, you're gonna have to fully cover up. And yes, in some countries you do have to wear an abaya, but you don't have to wear the full-fledged covering. I don't know the exact name for me. I think it's called a burqa, but I don't want to say the wrong name by accident and offend anybody, but you don't have to wear the full covering. But in some countries, you have to wear an abaya. For the countries that I've recently been to, I haven't had to wear an abaya, but sometimes I like it. I like the abaya sometimes. But I also want to say that I tend to dress in a modest fashion. Even when I'm back at home in the States, I tend to dress modestly. I'm not one to wear tight clothing. I'm not one to wear a lot of revealing stuff. That's just me personally. I'm not saying anything is wrong with women who choose to do that, but I personally just don't choose to do that for my life. And that may be why, as far as the clothes aspect, the adjustment hasn't really been that difficult for me because I was already dressed in modestly to begin with. So another thing that people said is that if you're a black female and you go over there, you will be sexually harassed. You're going to constantly be sexually harassed. Once again, I have not experienced that, but I do want to say that I am married, and when I go out, I tend to go out with my husband. There isn't a lot of times where I actually go out alone, all by myself, but I tend to go out with my husband, and so maybe perhaps that male presence provides a shield of protection for me, but I haven't been sexually harassed at all, not that I've picked up on. Maybe it's happened and I haven't picked up on it because sometimes it's hard for me to pick up on those things. But as far as someone like overtly touching me or overtly saying something, that hasn't happened to me personally. I wanted to also mention about the whole thing about people saying, well, they're intolerant over there. In the UAE, they actually have what's going on right now, 2019 year. This is the year of tolerance. So they're actually focusing on, the whole country is focusing on being tolerant. And I think that's actually kind of amazing. Some of the other things. So I've had people ask me, do they have electricity there? Do they have plumbing? Do you have to use the restroom outside? Like, how does that work? So yes, they have electricity. Yes, they have plumbing, although the plumbing is different. Like you can't put, like you're not supposed to put like toilet paper down in the toilet, which we do a lot in the US, but you're not supposed to do that here. You actually use what I like to call a butt gun. I don't know the real name for it, but it's just basically like a sprayer, and you spray your tush with it, and then you wipe or dry off, and then you take your tissue and you actually put it in a trash can, and hopefully that trash can gets dumped at least once a day. But yeah, so yeah, they do have electricity. They do have plumbing. They do have internet, although the internet here is really, really expensive. Like just for internet, it will cost you about $100 US a month just to get internet. I know, it's crazy. What else have I been asked that I was like, oh, I never even thought about that. The laws that they do have is very different, and I understand why they have it. Like there's one law that if you spit or like throw up or you do some like bodily fluids come out of you in public, that you'll be fined. And I do understand that, because if that happens, then they have to pay somebody to clean it up. And I understand them not wanting their city to be a city of bodily fluids. Also, I believe you get fined like if you litter, which I think is everywhere. I don't know too many countries that are industrialized that you don't get fined for littering. What are some other things? I can't think of any other things on the top of my head, but if you can think of some questions that you have for me and how it was like for me to travel as a Black female or African American female in the Middle East, I can definitely give you my perspective. I've been to Oman, I've been to Beirut, I've been to the UAE, and my next goals are to go to Turkey, as well as Saudi Arabia and Egypt and Qatar. So yeah, those are my next goals to go to as far as my Middle Eastern countries. But yeah, thank you so much for staying here with me. I know this video was a little bit calmer and not as like, you know, hyper and full of sensational stuff. But I strongly encourage you, if you have the opportunity, definitely travel to the Middle East. I think it definitely opened up my eyes, and I feel like I definitely have grown as a person. As my husband said that he feels like he has grown and it's given him a new perspective on this part of the world, and just kind of cleared up some misconceptions that we personally had as well. I think that's it. This is a long video. It's about 10 minutes long now. So I guess I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.